Hi, everybody. My name is Julie Holland, and I went to camp from 75 to 83. I started out as a little kid, and I was in cabin 2 and 7 and 9 and 13. And then my very last year, I was a senior counselor for cabin 15. And uh, those were the 9 very best summers of my life. And what I want to talk about today, I should let you know that I am a psychiatrist, and I uh, I have a private practice in psychiatry, and I used to run the psychiatric emergency room at Bellevue Hospital. I did that for 9 years. Also, it was just like camp for me. It's a 9-year period of time that was incredibly special in my life. But I learned a lot when I was at Bellevue, and I've learned a lot being a psychiatrist in private practice. And I've figured out a few sort of very basic things that I want to share with you. I also write books. I'm an author, and I came out with my 5th book this summer. And the book is called Good Chemistry. And what good chemistry is all about is the science of connection. It's understanding sort of the biology of connection and why we connect and why it gives us so much pleasure. We're as humans, we are social primates, and we're also obligatorily gregarious. Our species is designated as obligatorily gregarious, which means that if we're not friendly and cooperative and collaborative, we will die. And the thing to keep in mind is, like, back when we were on a savanna, if you got expelled from the group or ostracized from the group, you weren't going to have any help getting food or hunting or building a shelter or mating, and you would probably die. If the group didn't want to help you, you were not going to make it. And so we have built into us, sort of hardwired in our DNA at a very basic level. We have tremendous fear around not being part of the group. And we have ease and comfort and joy when we are part of the group. And I think a lot of us have experienced that at camp, both being part of the group and not being part of the group. So, not being part of the group, for shorthand, you could just sort of call it isolation, right? You're not being supported, you're isolated. And so, what happens to us, though, when we're isolated and we feel like we don't have friends around us, is that we actually go into fight or flight. It's a stressor for us, and it's a stressor on our bodies. So, I must have been told about fight or flight like from middle school through medical school. I was easily told about fight or flight like a dozen times, and it was always sort of sold to me as um, this is the key to our survival, right? This is survival of the fittest. If you can attack or you can flee, you will survive. And pardon my French, but the truth is that that's complete bullshit. And really, the key to our survival is not attacking and fleeing and fight or flight, but it's actually staying and working through our issues and cooperating, collaborating with people. That's really the key to our survival. So, as much as you think that fight or flight is survival, it's really not. It's the flip side of fight or flight. So the flip side of sympathetic is something called the parasympathetic nervous system. And so, as much as the sympathetic nervous system enables attacking and running away, the parasympathetic nervous system enables staying and resting and digesting and integrating things. And also, it's the only time where your body can repair itself. And this is really important because all of us who are sort of running on empty or running on fumes in fight or flight, our bodies don't get to repair themselves in this mode. Our bodies only repair themselves when they're in the parasympathetic mode. So it's really important to get out of sympathetic and into parasympathetic. So how do we do that, right? Easier said than done. You can feel yourself getting in fight or flight. You get kind of clenchy and your heart rate goes up, you get a little sweaty and your stomach's churning. It's very easy to identify when you're in fight or flight. So the first thing is just to pay attention to your body and have a sense of when you are calm and at ease versus when you are clenchy and ready to attack or retreat. You want, obviously, to be calm and at ease. And the easiest way to get you into parasympathetic is actually just breathing through your nose. Just in and out through your nose will help to keep you calm. If you're really panicky and anxious and freaking out, if you plug up your right nostril and breathe in and out through your left, that will calm you. What else puts you in parasympathetic and what else calms you? Music, not surprisingly. Um, Being held, cuddling, um, extended eye contact, but also things like floating. If you happen to be in warm water and you can really open up your chest, or you're doing yoga and you're very open, that's being in parasympathetic. Being in the woods, being out in nature, unless you're being chased by a saber-toothed tiger, being out in the woods is pretty much guaranteed to put you in the parasympathetic mode. One of the things I wrote about a lot in Good Chemistry is how important it is to be in nature, and this idea of forest bathing as a treatment for depression, that just feeling connected, right? It really comes down to whether you're feeling isolated or connected. And when you're out in nature, even if you're alone, you still feel sort of connected to the planet, and part of nature. There's a sort of integrated feeling, where you feel like part of something bigger than you, and that puts you in parasympathetic, and it's really good for your body. So one of the things I talk about in Good Chemistry is all the different ways that we can feel a part of something bigger than us, because that's good for our bodies, right? So we can feel that when we're out in nature. We can feel it when you're looking at the stars and the universe, and you feel like so small and the universe is so big, but it's still kind of holding you, and everything is connected and interdependent. You can feel held in a relationship. You can feel held in a family. You can feel held by your parent. You can even feel held by your child while you're holding your child. Um, the biology that undergirds something like parenting or nursing, it's all pretty much oxytocin, right? So oxytocin is the good chemistry that keeps us connected. It keeps us connected to each other. It can keep us connected to ourselves. It keeps us connected to our children or our parents. Oxytocin is a hormone and a neurotransmitter, and it sort of pharmacologically enables trusting and bonding and being open. And as much as the fight or flight system, the sympathetic system, sort of runs on adrenaline and cortisol, the parasympathetic system really runs on oxytocin. That is the thing that keeps us in para. That is the thing that keeps us feeling connected and feeling part of something bigger. So that all sounds well and good and kind of crunchy granola, and we love oxytocin. But then you have this issue of, how does oxytocin work in societies? And I wanted to have some time today to talk to you about this issue of social cohesion. Um, I know at camp we would sometimes we would bond as a cabin, or we would bond as a girls' camp or boys' camp, or as juniors or middlers. There was a sense of social cohesion, that you belong to a bigger group, and sometimes we would have competitions between these groups. And I definitely remember as a senior counselor taking the competition very seriously, and sort of riding people hard because I wanted our team to win. And I had a lot of testosterone sort of fighting against the oxytocin. But one of the things that oxytocin does, besides bonding between two people, is that it helps to groups. It helps with social cohesion and sort of unity within a group. And so a few examples of that: say you're at a concert and everybody's singing the same song and like loving the same performer or something, you feel very unified at that concert. But say you're at a political rally and everybody around you feels the same way you do, and they like the same political person you do, there would be tremendous social cohesion in that situation also. And so it's something to keep in mind when we are going out in the world, especially now with COVID, right? The issue now with COVID, as we all know, is that we need to have enough sort of civic trust and social cohesion that we can all follow these rules about wearing a mask or being socially distanced. um, it really comes down to, the reason why you wear a mask isn't really to protect yourself, it's to protect other people from you, right? That's a real shift in a sort of self-centered, egocentric way of thinking, right? Public health and public safety, in the current context, it requires collaboration, right, across the community, where we have to feel united with our community, and that we want to take care of our community, right? It's all about caretaking, which again, oxytocin is all about sort of tending and befriending, right? It's about making social connections, and then tending to those connections. And again, I would have you look again at the sympathetic versus parasympathetic. When you're in fight or flight mode and you've got an emergency, like say there's a fire in your kitchen, you're not going to pick up the phone and chat with somebody. You're not going to be friendly and polite with your neighbor. You've got a fire to put out. You're very focused. Your social skills are terrible. So it's something to keep in mind that when people are fearful and anxious, or when they're isolated, they're going to be in fight or flight. They're going to be in the sympathetic mode. And when they're in that mode, their social skills are not going to be good. And they're going to be very self-centered and focusing on protecting them and the people that they care most about. And they're not going to necessarily think too much about other people and what other people's needs are. So it's really important if you're trying to connect with somebody like that, that you find common ground and commonalities that you can sort of agree on ahead of time. You don't just dive right in and start talking politics. You talk about the weather and the snow and your kids and how much your kids like the same teacher, and you talk about the community and the town that you love, and you have to build on common ground before you can tackle these very sensitive areas, because the commonalities help to sort of allow the oxytocin to flow. They help people feel like they have social cohesion, like they feel integrated, they're part of the group, they don't feel ostracized, they're not going to have so much anxiety. That's when you can start to talk about uncomfortable issues. Somebody has to be in parasympathetic before you can really change anybody's minds. The other thing I would love to talk about in terms of changing minds is that there are certain phases in people's lives where they're in this sort of a very hyperplastic state. Neuroplasticity, the brain being able to take in new information or make a lot of changes. Adolescence is a very hyperplastic time where the brain is making a lot of new connections and there's a certain amount of pruning going on. And there are these sort of pivotal mental states that are hyperplastic states. And meditation is one. And being out in nature and feeling very connected with nature is another one. Being at summer camp is another one. It is a time where deep learning can happen, right? When you're in this plastic state, you can have very deep learning, and pretty intense behavioral changes can come out of this. So in this book that I wrote, In Good Chemistry, I talk about all the different ways that you can affect the brain's plasticity, that you can enable learning and growth and connection to happen. And there's a little bit about psychedelics and there's a little bit about cannabis, because those are things that I'm very interested in. I'm extremely interested in the sort of transformative potential of plant medicines. But even if you're not interested in that at all, if you want to learn more about oxytocin, it's a really fascinating hormone that I'm really interested in. So I'm going to play one more song, and the reason I'm stalling is that I'm not sure which one I'm going to play. And if anybody chats me a request, it's very possible that I will play it, because otherwise I'm not too sure. There's this old song nobody knows at all called Sparrow, which is sort of about selfishness and being selfish versus helping out somebody in need. So I think I'm going to end with Sparrow. I believe this is a Paul Simon song. And yeah. Also, I haven't practiced this one, so I don't know if it's going to be the right key, but we'll see. I love a little sparrow who's traveled far and cries for rest. Not I, said the oak tree, I won't share my branches with no sparrow's nest, and my blanket of leaves won't warm her cold breast. Who will love a little sparrow, and who will speak a kindly word said the swan. The entire idea is utterly absurd. I'd be laughed at and scorned if the other birds heard. Who will take pity in his heart? And who will feed a starving sparrow? Not I, said the golden wheat. I would if I could, but I cannot, I know. I need all my grain to prosper and grow. Of a little sparrow, will no one write her eulogy? I will, said the earth, for all I've created returns unto me. From dust were you made, and dust shall ye be. Shall I stop? Thank you for everyone who came. Thank you for inviting me to do this. It was really quite an honor to host Vespers, and I love you all. Stay healthy, stay in para, stay open. Bye.